everyone. Welcome, welcome. It's Val Evans. Hope you're doing great today. Welcome to the February predictions. If you are watching this in early February, you are a valedictorian. So thanks so much for joining my channel. And today we're going to be talking about not only the February predictions, but some of the things that we were talking about in January as far as what's happening in the world. A lot of what I talk about is US based. But what you can do is, if you're interested in pulling a chart for your country, you can draw the time, which is midnight for the first of the month, and then the capital of your city, and see what you get. So good to see you, Inge, and also Toje. And you guys are talking about something in a foreign language I can't understand. But I am going to start off with a little explanation of what I'm doing here, because it's an odd way to make a prediction, but we're going to do it. And let me see if I can get over here. Before we start, though, I just want to remind you that tonight at 10:30 Eastern, I'm going to be talking about the Missouri City victims and the latest updates. And then also tomorrow night, I'm going to be talking about making predictions just for the members. And we're going to be talking about cheating and what comes up in solar return charts for some celebrities, including Shakira and Shania Twain, which, drama, so much trouble in the lives of some females. And we're going to see how to identify what's coming up. And then tomorrow night, I am going to be looking at the charts for Harry and Meghan, see what they have up their sleeves, because it seems like it's going to be pretty big. And that's at 9 Eastern. Well, I wanted to start out with this slide, and that basically says it all. January was a tough year, but we made it. It went by kind of fast, but it was a whole different energy as Uranus pushed its way through to back into Aquarius. So everybody was starting to think a little bit faster. The energy was just different at first. A lot of weather where I was. And I think it was probably dark with clouds for about a week. And that was a little tough on the mentality. And then Saturn is moving 1 degree at a time, and was really in that 5-degree part of Pisces. So Pisces people are having a little low period, but it's slowly, suddenly coming out because Saturn is now at 6 degrees. So I kind of look at Saturn and Uranus a lot. All right, so I just wanted to go over this as an example of a prediction. Now, you remember last June, there was a terrible explosion or implosion of Ocean Gate, which was basically a sub, and it was going down with tourists to go take a look at the Titanic. And it was named Titan. And this was the chart for the US on June 1st, 2023. This actually happened on June 18th. And funny how we have 18 degrees there at Chiron, which you don't like to see those 18 degrees in some of these charts. But so you see that, but mainly you look at the chart ruler for that month, and we're talking about Aquarius, which can mean scientists, it can mean change, and it can also mean accidents. So we have Uranus is in the 3rd house of transportation. And interesting that Jupiter represents a ship, and you've got Mercury right next to it, which means a twin. So Titanic and Titan. So there were two kind of ships that were near each other that sounded like each other. And the other thing too is that now I believe there were 5 people who died, 5 or 6. And there was a young boy that was on this submersible, and Jupiter represents a teenager. North Node is a foreign teenagers, somebody who people in this area would consider foreign, someplace from a far off distance, basically. And now we also have it in Taurus, which represents very wealthy people. So a wealthy group, Mercury in Taurus, and you've got a big square here. And these people would become famous. A lot of times when you see like an opposition or a square to Moon in the ninth, which is basically publications and PR and fame, it's something that you wouldn't want to be famous for. And the famous subject matter is basically Scorpio, eighth house matters, and a death. So that's kind of like an example of something you might be able to see before it actually happened in the month. And the other thing too is Aquarius represents air. So you can see how there was no air in that submersible. It was cut off, and there's a big grand cross, which is extremely, extremely difficult to have in a chart. So that's one example of being able to see what kind of major newsworthy headline is coming up. And that was a big one in last June. And and by the way, remember Uranus wanting to be in the future? Well, the pilot, which would be the sun, I wanted to be Captain Kirk, and in our lifetime, the final frontier is the ocean, he told a journalist in 2017. Well, who is he? He is the pilot. His name is Stockton Rush. So if you recall when I was talking about Taylor Swift the other day, and we were talking about how her South Node is in Aquarius, showing her last name of Swift, which means fast. Well, basically the subject would be on Rush. So Uranus would be a name. Ascendant or Aquarius is a name here, especially with the ascendant. You're going to be able to see names with the ascendant. So Rush would be something that we would be looking to or seeing that month. All right, so I've got another example for you, and then we'll look at, hey, Linda, nice to see you. Toji, the ascendant degree, can it give the number of victims? Let me double check. Absolutely, I think it could. Let me see how many died in Ocean Gate. I think you're getting to, June 18th, 2023. How many died? It was 5 people. So yeah, maybe a group, but in this case, not exact. All right. Let me see here. Let me get back to this. It certainly can tell us something. And with 6 degrees, that's going to be service, work, health, and can show other things for, basically the future of the country in a sense of where you are. But with this chart, it's going to be for New York. All right. Hope you guys can hear me okay. I think I'm going to shift my microphone just a little bit so you can hear me better. Hey, Heather, nice to see you. Glad you could come on. Absolutely. Good point. Yes. What we were talking about in January and the last month, and we're trying to figure out what the chart was for last month. And here we go again, South Node, but not like September 11th, but Libra it's justice, it's the court. It could be a court matter that goes away. And we have a lot of people fighting in court. You can see this. Third house is what the country basically is talking about. So in the third house, I mean, it could be a lot of things that are Sagittarius related. This is the US, it is court matters, it's publications. So a lot of people are talking about that. And so we have, if you'll recall, we were talking about early on in January, I circled the Lord of Libra. And what is this? This is the chart ruler. So this is a very important planet in the chart, just like it would be in any one of your charts. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at that and you're going to say, okay, so what kind of shape is that in? Now, here's something that you can add from a personal standpoint. And that is, do you have a Venus ruled sign in your chart? And if you do, then in January, and you see that T square there, you might have felt quite a bit blocked. There might have been some fear when it comes to maybe family issues, fifth house. There might have been, you might have had to deal with something online. Moon in Virgo, sometimes that can be health issues and just kind of thinking about health issues. But this is a very difficult T square. And thankfully, now you are out of it now that we're in January. So as January comes in, that T square lifts off those Venus signs. So that would be an example of a Venus sign. If you were a Mars, or if you're Aries, you have to look at the Lord of Aries. And so Mars it's kind of half and half. You can see that there's a square with Neptune here. And sometimes that means that there are ambiguous things going on at work, or you might be sleepy at work. You might not be able to do your tasks very effectively in the month of January if you are basically Mars or Aries. There are a lot of other things, though, that could be construed as positive when we see Mars trining the North Node. So this can mean that maybe third house is sometimes it's siblings, neighbors. There in January, there could have been a new contract of some sort that came into play. Why? Because the seventh house represents contracts and partners. So you might have been talking it could be a business contract. So very favorable for business contracts in January for Aries. For Taurus, you've got Venus. So basically focusing again on what I just said about Venus, but you have Jupiter in your sign. So often shows that there's a lot of luck, but you have to be careful that you don't overindulge, and that can happen. Now, with Mercury, you're going to with Gemini and with Virgo, you're going to look at Mercury. And in January, Mercury was retrograde. Still, there were some things that could have been pretty positive for you. You were able to maybe let go of some things that you really wanted to let go. That would be a sextile to Mercury. And so that would be a good thing. Gemini, in Sagittarius, it is thinking and planning about things, but those Mercury ruled signs are still a little bit slow, could be tired too, and dealing with documents and going over documents again, and then also travel and obstacles with travel. So it wasn't the perfect month for those Mercury people. All right, I'm going to come back to some of the others in a second and see if you guys have any questions. Oh, I'm so glad. Thanks, Heather. Yes, it does really help. Thanks, Ingrid. Oh, thanks, Linda. You're so sweet. Yes. Oh, hey, Marion. Good to see you. Shauna's here. Great. Okay. Now we've got some of the regulars. Okay. So I just want to cut that off and just for a few minutes talk more about the mundane stuff in case you came here just for that. And then we'll go back to Cancer. Cancer, one of my favorite signs. So intuitive, caring. I mean, every sign has its negative qualities. So I'm not saying that they're, you know, the best sign, but certain signs get along better. That's why I get along with psychics, because they have a lot of moon intuition, a lot of that moon energy. So this is February 1st. Oh, and I wanted to say too, Sports Illustrated for January, huge layoff. That made news. So what was in the news for that month would be the ninth house. So you look at Mercury, and writers were not doing well. And guess what? Writers were pissed off too because they were let go. Mars is also sports and athletes. So in the third house, we're talking writers. What did they do? They're squaring Neptune. So that means they go away. They are asked to leave their work, which would be sixth house. And I mean, you could say it as sixth house, but really, if you wanted to be technical about it and you wanted to say that these are the writers, you could count six houses from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you'd have to go to the eighth house, which would be Taurus. And then you would go to Venus. So, I mean, both could really work. Venus would be basically, they have no money. The writers' money because of the square to Saturn. So you really have to kind of do a hopscotch there. But if you wanted to keep it simple, you could say everyone's talking about writers that lost their job. And why is Neptune lost? Well, it is the ruler of the 12th house of losses. So if you're in a square with Neptune, it's likely that something's going to get lost. And then, let's see, I talked about, well, E. Jean Carroll won $84 billion. Was it? I don't know, million? I don't know. It was so much. 84 million. And she's squaring here. She's Venus. But there is a little sextile to Pluto. So that's the first thing. 2 degrees means money. It also means the best at something. And what did she do? She was in publications for many, many years. She's a publisher in her own right. So she was really in the news. And how do you get that? Well, the ruler of January is Venus. And it certainly doesn't look really great, but this is a long, long court battle. And Sagittarius is the courts. And it's funny, it gets a little bit confusing because Libra also represents the courts and judges and that kind of thing. But I usually go to Sagittarius and ninth house for courts. And so this is a woman in court, and you could see her struggling for a long time, but then she gets a payout. Well, I don't know if she's actually going to get the payout, but there is a nice sextile to Pluto, which could be construed as revenge. You know, she gets her revenge. Not that she wanted that, but the other thing too is we have student debt. We've got a president here, and it was kind of a monumental decision. And what was he doing? This is a big triangle here. And the eighth house is debt. And it was very famous what he did. He helped students with money, Taurus money, but there's Black Moon Lilith there. So there were definite reasons for doing so. Let's just say that. One of those, presidential playbook types of stuff. Doesn't look 100% legit to me, but I'm sure a lot of people are celebrating. February 1st. I'm happy about February 1st. January was it felt stuck. I'm a Venus sign, and I was in that T square, and I was just kind of, I guess I was in neutral. I didn't really feel like I was pushing to my potential. So we have quite a different for if we're going to talk about Venus, this would be an example. We look to Venus if I were looking for my sign, but really the point of this chart is looking to see what's going to happen in February. And this is for New York. So it would be Pluto is going to rule this chart right here. And Pluto is in two trines here. And it's right next to Mercury. It seems like another snowstorm or something. And the reason I say that is because we still have 3 planets in Capricorn. And this is like a lot of groups, it's a lot of metal, and it's a lot of snow. So, you know, we're getting warmer here, and I hope we don't have another storm, but it certainly does look like something is maybe stopped, especially with this square here with the 3rd house of transportation. So be careful when you're making plans. And it looks like because of Chiron in the 6th, maybe people are going to work or something like that. And it looks challenging there. Yet, because Pluto is in these nice trines and Pluto is now in Aquarius, it seems like something is really picking up and going fast. And 8th house can be, getting a maybe better credit scores or some news around something that has to do with getting loans, maybe getting some type of advantage when it comes to 8th house, which is real estate as well. So that's good news. Also, Pluto, it is right next to Mercury and Mars here. This is like, basically, it's like 1,000, maybe even 50,000 cars. And because Pluto's in Aquarius, it seems like there might be some kind of news about electric cars or something that has to do with the future when it comes to transportation. Pluto in Aquarius is just way too close to these other planets, which really creates this, it's just a powerhouse and will definitely result in something that is newsworthy. Let's just say that. Now, I do like, except that it's at 22 degrees, and the 22 degrees is part of fortune, which can be a little bit dangerous, especially when we are squaring Uranus. Now, because this is the month, you could, in theory, just like the degree theory, and I have not tested this out, so we would have to walk through this together at another time. But this would be like February 1st, February 2nd, February 3rd, and around the wheel. We could do it that way. And that's when these houses or the lords would activate. So if this, and we can test it out now, the 3rd house is packed, okay? And that's tomorrow. So let's see if anything happens in the news that has to do with Capricornian things, 4 planets, basically, pretty much in the same sign, but in the same house at least. This is going, in my mind, be something because of that T square here. So that could be a prediction. We want nice, happy predictions, though. And one happy prediction is something's happening that's really fast. And this would be tomorrow too. We've got a grand trine here with Black Moon Lilith right here. And Venus is in Capricorn. This makes me think of somebody speaking out, someone with dark hair, dark complexion, could be an older woman, and might be a little bit dark because of that black moon Lilith. But she's getting what she wants, and it might, the woman might actually be wealthy. Makes me think of Meghan Markle. I wonder if maybe on one of these days, it could be the 3rd, or it could be the 15th, and so on. We could double check if we're going to hear from somebody like Meghan Markle or someone that might have a Capricornian type of profile. All right, so the big thing for February is a monumental historical hearing, Supreme Court hearing, whether Trump can run for president. Amidst all of his court battles and indictments, can you still run for president? It's going to be a big one. And I think we're going to have to look at a couple of charts for that. So I want to see what you think about that. In fact, why don't I pull a card on what the Supreme Court could possibly decide this month, whether it's going to be in favor or not. Okay, Angel D, I'm not psychic, I'm intuitive, but I've been getting premonitions and dreams about water being the new current currency. Water is soon going to be an extremely valuable commodity. I totally agree. Now, and I've thought that too in the past years. Heather, Neptune and Uranus are both in conjunct the moon. Yep. Yeah, and that causes stress. Okay. And I'm afraid no cash, everything. Yeah, it's hard not to be afraid of things, but these things pass, and then we are faced with another new challenge. All right, so what's going to happen with the Supreme Court decision? Spirit, can you give us any type of answer on what we can expect with the Supreme Court decision? All right, let's see. What do we get? Oh, 3 of Swords. Heart is broken. This looks like somebody's going to be very disappointed. And actually, it's reversed, though. So this is maybe a reversal of the 3 of Swords. What do you guys think about that? And I'm going to ask for a little bit more information. Hey, Jody, we're talking about Trump and how this month is a big Supreme Court decision on whether he can run for president. And we want a little bit more clarity from that first card, which was reversed 3 of Swords. 3, I think, is a major clue. Third party is blocked. All right, let's see. Let me just shuffle this. Okay. 10 of Cups. That looks pretty positive, but how positive? It looks like a family is very happy and there's a lot of abundance that is coming. So the end of a bad period, and now we can everyone, maybe collectively, can breathe a sigh of relief. Could it mean that? Okay, so now what I'm going to do, so let's remember those cards. Thanks, Glow with the Flow, I know. I'm not going to do one card anymore. I learned that from Tarot Moon the other day. All right, so now I'm going to go to this February chart, February 1st, 2024, New York, and it's going to potentially tell us about the president. Now, interesting how the sun is in Aquarius, which would mean Aquarius is an X. So is Uranus. Uranus is an X president. And you can see that too. You can see how Uranus is here and it is squaring the sun. He doesn't want to be an ex-president. He wants to be the president. He does have a trine to the 8th house. It's can mean communication documents, secret documents. I think it's just showing us a profile. He does very well with real estate and real estate documents. Let's just say that. So, as far as what I'm seeing here, it seems like it might be a little difficult. So, what I want to do is look at the USA solar return chart. And so, this started last July 4th, and I keep it simple. Sometimes I pull the chart for the US in different dates, but it's Independence Day that we celebrate. So I just look to July 4th. And Mercury is the ruler of this year's chart. So if you have a solar return chart and your ascendant is in Virgo, this year you're going to feel Virgo. So Virgo can be the perfectionists, can have to do with healthcare, it can have to do with work issues and basically routine. And we've got the sun here in the 11th house. And that seems pretty good. It actually seems as if the country, just by looking at this, is feeling better with the sun in Cancer. Even though it is detrimented there, it can still show some positive things because we have this mini grand trine here. And it goes to Jupiter. So ninth house is, and this is for this year, it seems as if there's a lot of activity in the ninth house of courts. And so we're going to get more clarity. It's kind of like picking a second card. We look at the ninth house lord, which would be Mars. This is a little troubling because we have a couple of things going on. Inside the ninth house, we have North Node. Now, that can also show a foreign court is somehow coming in with regard to what the USA is doing this year. But we can also look at Mars, which is, funny enough, a very wealthy Venus man right at Regulus. I think this could be Trump. I really do. This is the man who likes gold. We've got a couple of things happening here. There is Uranus squaring him, okay? Now, I'm not sure, what we would do to find out what month this is all happening is we're going to go to February, which is right here. And the month is ruled by Mars. So crazy, isn't it? So Trump, it basically rules February. And there's a couple of things that are a little bit confusing because you've got inside there the eighth house of real estate. You have, I'm going to put this in green because it's good. You've got part of fortune. And it's at the MC. Then on the other end of things, you can combine these two planets. So it's almost like a successful scam or a successful fraud, something like that. Yet there's too much going on, I think, for this to be pulled off because it's basically there's a square with the ruler of the chart. So it just isn't going to work. Whatever this successful fraud is, could be a successful fraud retrograde from the past. So what I'm getting at here is there seems to be a shock in February with Trump, I think. Except one thing. There's always an exception. You have a trine here to the North Node, which shows that a foreign court likes him or that he is able to lie. He's able, at least, I think this is something that has to do with deception. So there could be deception of the court in some way that North Node in Taurus, too, is somebody who's very wealthy. So it can just show maybe a profile that he's very, very, very wealthy. But you are going to see, mark my words, this Uranus right here is going to be a total shock to him. Funny how Black Moon Lilith is there. Somebody who doesn't care about what anyone else thinks, wants to do exactly what's good for the self, and really trying to survive and trying to move forward so that he can become president. The thing is, though, is that these degrees represent a presidency, and there is a trine to North Node. It seems like there might be something that helps him a little bit, but for the most part, he disappears. Do you see that? I bet you this is one person on the court that helps him. And then that's got to be one person. Maybe, is there one person on there that has like a foreign name or something like that? I don't know. But Uranus, we're gonna learn this month what that means. So super interesting. Yeah, I would say BML is Trump because, or it shows like it's like a nefarious. You see it a lot with murders, not that he's a murderer, but you see it where they only have their self to think about. They do not think past a certain point. Like, of course, people describe narcissists. I would think of somebody like Scott Peterson or the other one, Chris Watts, and they do not care about what kind of pain they caused others, what kind of long-term consequences. This is an energy of not caring about consequences, just wanting what they want. And that is really encapsulated in this. I think that he is actually Mars, which would be a man, and with Venus there, that's a wealthy man. It could also be Melania too. And she's hidden. She's behind the 12th. Now, this could also mean that something is happening. The 12th house is secrets. So there could be something that is happening that's secretive that they're going through right now that nobody knows about yet. That's also a possibility. So if it's good for the country, then Trump should not win. Am I understanding correctly? Exactly. Well, you can see Mercury is the chart ruler, and there's that mini grand trine there to the court. So it looks as if whatever happens is going to be good for the country based on the solar return chart for the USA. So read into that what you want, but it looks like the court is helping the chart ruler, which is the USA. Now, you could also construe that in the 12th house, these are hidden enemies. And what rules the 12th house is the sun. So it's almost like the sun, the hidden enemy, is right next to the ruler in the 11th house of maybe future things, hopes and dreams, that kind of thing. That's really it. You're looking at a lot of energy based on what's coming up with the campaign. Oh, your last comment got blocked. I didn't block it. That's interesting. Let's see. Okay. Isn't it amazing that he managed to avoid the traps? Well, a lot of people avoided his traps. It's a real shock to me because he had so much on all of these people. And that's the other thing from January too. If you look at that, we were seeing names. All right, so this is January, and we were at first. Remember that last prediction show where like something is being purged? And I remember one of you said, well, maybe that's the names from Jeffrey Epstein. And so Mercury would be a document. Mars would be men in the document, okay, that's being let go. but it seems as if something was being blocked. Look at this. There's an opposition here. Let's just say they want to get rid of this. They want to get rid of, how would you say, that would be, I mean, sometimes it's like beautiful women, okay? And opposing, it's like a group of, why is it a group? Because there are 3 planets in there, which make it a group. And it seems as if they're blocking the names. So I think there was a lot of, the other thing too, if you wanted to look at the ninth house of press and Mercury here, Mercury's names of men, but look at the square with Neptune. The names disappear. So I think what was promoted to the world wasn't the whole thing. I think that there were more. And it might continue that story. But all right, so this is, yeah. So January, February. It does seem like there's going to be some kind of Aries related success. And that's good for Aries in February to see that. So there might, if you're in Aries, you're going to get part of fortune in your house for this year, or not for this year, for this month. No, for this year because it's still a return chart. But yes, also for the month because 8th house is February. Sorry. I got to drink my coffee. Now, we are in the solar return chart. We could go to March. March, I think we're still going to be seeing a lot. And that still might, because here's how I'm reading it. Mars rules the 8th house and it's squaring the court. So February, court, it's like it's an explosive thing. It's something that's like a huge shock. And then Mars, it carries over into Mars because Uranus is in the ninth house. So these are 2 months that are going to be, I would say, explosive in a sense. Let's see. Weren't there people who went and filed something in order not to be released or begged someone? Maybe, I don't know. I think that's possible. Yes, we should. Black Moon Leo or something like that. But I would say that that's probably Trump in there because he's a Leo. He's a king in a sense. And he's the king that disappeared. But he's working behind the scenes. He's planning just like any other candidate would. But he's you know what this almost makes me think? Looking at that, it looks as if he's planning something for March. No, let me see. He's planning something that is that's very shocking. I don't even know if anybody realizes how shocking, but that looks like. Now, here would be another thing that would be shocking, which this chart might support, is that he's unable to run for president. Now, I think everybody would be like, wow, that's it. He's done. He's gone. And there would be a shock as far as that's concerned. So, military, yeah. Well, there could be some military themes for February. Absolutely. Yeah. So February looks like a mixed bag, but expect a surprise starting and culminating, I think, with regard to the courts. And also ninth house is foreign travel too. So it's a possibility that he's supposed to be somewhere and there's something that's unexpected that happens to him. And so something that he wasn't expecting. This could be news. Ninth house, remember, is news. So he is being shocked about something. Lady Liberty Court, Venus versus Mars against Jupiter. Court. Venus. Venus actually rules. I see what you're saying because, no, ninth. I don't know what you're saying. Versus Mars against Jupiter. Is it Mars against Jupiter? No, it's Uranus. It's not Jupiter. The sign for Russia is Neptune. So I don't know. I'm not sure. It looks like there's something that probably already happened because that's the end of January. So maybe there was some kind of news with regard to Russia, because that's how these things work when you're talking about timing. If it's the very end, now remember this is the 4th. So this is July 4th, August 4th, September 4th. So the day of your birthday is very important because that starts your chart. And that like I know in my case, I look at, let's say my birthday is the 19th, and every time the 19th comes around, it does seem as if things kind of shift a little bit. And so you'll see that too, I think. All right. Now let's see. Okay. So that's basically February. And it's important to really keep in mind the ruler of the chart when it comes to how you're going to feel when you're talking about your own personal soul return chart. And there is a little square to part of fortune, and it's in the 8th house. So it is not meeting your goals, but at the same time, you're the lord of your hidden enemy is right next to you. So it's kind of like you both aren't really hitting your goals, but you have backup support because of this trine here. And because this is the hidden enemy and because this is the chart ruler, it almost seems as if they're both getting wins that in some case. Mercury. A lot of returning. Saturn retrograde means a return, going back. And if it's in a trine or a sextile, it can show going back, basically using precedents to help your case in a 9th house type of thing. So interesting about that. Now, also, we might as well look at this. January goes from January 4th to February 4th. Okay. Remember I was talking about Neptune? What happened basically at the end of January, what we were talking about, well, it happened in the beginning of February, but the mystery was throughout the whole month. And at the end of January, we found out the toxicology report with the game, 5th house. So Missouri City deaths. So that was coming in. Everybody was talking about the toxicology report. So you can see that coming in the beginning of January, Saturn retrograde. There's a lot of squares here. Okay, you could see death. Now it's not a square is not always death, but Saturn squaring Gemini. Gemini is a group. So a group death happened, and it's in Pisces. So group disappears, group is found with a bad toxicology report, basically. So that was a tough, that would be an example of what everybody was talking about in January. But there was a lot of stuff people were talking about, the courts especially, and that was going to show also. The ninth house was really lit up in January. And, we saw what's his face in January too. That really, I got to say, that could have been part of the shock was the E. Jean thing. And you can't really see it exactly, but that could be construed as something he was just absolutely shocked about. Ninth house stuff. And then also we were talking too about January and how we were thinking there might be like two killers or a group of killers or something like that. I still think that this might have something to do with Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, because of the influences, the toxicology, the drugs. So I think that might have had something to do with, what everybody was talking about, which would be the third house and Jupiter up here in the eighth. That's also something else everybody was talking about, but I think that was a lot of publications and a failed publication. You can see the square to part of fortune. But remember, we're talking a lot about scientists. So the science, you could see a failed scientist here that squares the Lord of the third house, what we're talking about. So basically, he doesn't have his career anymore. And we're going to be talking about that tonight too, a little bit more, and what is the future for the case. That's a great point. Didn't think about that. I know. It was amazing. It was very clear. You don't always get such clear charts like that. Just like with humans, sometimes it's pretty straightforward, you know what I guess their goal is in life and what they like and what they don't like. And then there's like the crazy charts where it's like, well, it's a little complicated and you're going to have 4 storylines or 10 storylines in your life. Don't apologize. There are no stupid questions. Angel D, ask a question. You have not had any stupid questions that I know of. Oh, probably that I couldn't understand. But that was me. We'll iron that one out later. Now, let's see. What else do we have? Yeah, I think the next thing we're going to do tomorrow night, we're going to talk about Harry and Meghan. I'm going to look at their solar return charts. I think we're going to be able to get some really good predictions, and you're going to be able to apply it to your chart as well. And then tomorrow I've got a class. I think I might have some spots open. So definitely check my link if you're interested. It's in the morning and it's Astrology 101. And so I think I'm going to let you guys go. It was just kind of a short, oh, you know what? I can't let you guys go because I've got to go and do the rest of the chart. I almost forgot. Hold on one second. Let me see. It is. Okay, so I was stuck on Cancer. Yeah. Okay, so we were kind of going back on January about how we would feel in January. And so the ruler of the MC would, or for Cancer, would be the moon. So Cancer people, it looks like there was some really good news. And there was good news and bad news. You can see the bad news with Venus. It's kind of like you might have lost some money, or there might have been some kind of conflict, maybe with even a foreign woman, because moon in Sagittarius, it can be an American woman, but it can also be a foreign woman. And it's because most people in America are foreign. So that's why American and foreign is one and the same, the melting pot. And so the sun would be here and in a trine with the moon. So the black moon Lilith is you can be intuitive about a person that's next to you. Maybe at work, there might have been some issues with somebody kind of like a little bit too close for comfort because these are people often. When you see Black Moon Lilith, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're acting devious, although maybe people think that you are, but it's also a person. So this could be a well-known person. It could be somebody who wants to help you that everybody else thinks is like a demon because of that moon right there, which is to help. So sun looks the sun based um, what do you call it? Signs. Let me do this here. Look, because Leo didn't, there were some Leos that didn't really do so well, which you could say would be the opposition, but the sun is really always opposite the MC in January. So there would kind of be a feeling of free fall for the suns and also the Capricorns. But for the most part, it looks like there were a lot of things that were coming in as far as opportunities for the Leos. Then for the Virgos, we look at Mercury. Like I said, still there can be some wins, some really big wins, maybe starting a business, being more motivated, but not as strong as this month. Libra, like I said, Venus ruled. And then the Scorpios for January, they just look pissed off to me. um, they might be focused on trying to make some money, survival types of things. And really, at the 29th degree can mean chaos. So those Scorpios were a little bit chaotic, I think, this month, but still found ways to, you know, maybe learn how to bring in more income because of that little sextile with Venus. So I think, did I go through it? No. So Jupiter, uh, Jupiter ruling Sagittarius, looks like there were opportunities that came in because of the major grand trine, but a square with part of fortune, you might have to try again. Capricorn would be ruled by Saturn. Possibly some good luck. It looks really challenging because of this T square. Anybody that's on one of the ends of the T square is going to have a hard time. So that would be Cancer, could be Virgo, Pisces, Capricorn, and Sagittarius and Venus. Like that's part of that T square. So there is going to be kind of a block, but that lifts off. And thankfully that T square is no more. So we're kind of like, it's like green light. And with the fifth house in Aquarius, it seems like Aquarius did pretty well in January. Yeah, I would say for the most part, might have some ideas, new ideas about Taurus related things and maybe even some real estate. Pisces, well, we've got Saturn in Pisces. Saturn is now at 6 degrees and trucking through there, a lot of hard work, a lot of remembering things, a lot of I would say some obstacles for the Pisces. It was a particularly difficult month because of that square with two planets and squaring the Lord of Pisces. So let's look at the next one. Looks a little bit better for Pisces in February, thank God. And so that's all you have to do. You just go to the wheel and you see where your planet is and see if there's any kind of supporting aspect, which would normally be a blue line. And then I also talked about Mars already. It was kind of a mixed bag last week or last month, but there's a square with Neptune. So really trying to go ahead, but not having the right organization, not knowing which direction, but like all systems go, I think sometimes. And that's Aries in general, all systems go, and they've got a sense of direction. But in this past month, it was a little bit difficult for Aries to kind of course correct. And so now we're on a better path, I think, for Aries. So that's one way. It's a little bit of a roundabout way to look at a prediction, but definitely look at these months and maybe see last month if there was like a major event in your life, and look at the month with just, the first of the month and midnight, and see if that month gave you a little bit of a prediction. Okay. Oh, there's Summer Rae. Summer Rae, we're going to be on again. If y'all want to come on tonight, we're going to talk about Missouri. I keep wanting to say Missouri City, but it's Kansas City, Missouri. And ah, Summer Rae, I knew you were Cancer. Okay. And yeah, that was a good point about the Kansas City's to Kansas City. It was a twin. And it makes sense because what was in the news, Gemini, which would be two things. So there's a lot of Gemini this past month. Now with February, Moon is going to be in the news. So Moon means people who are famous, domestic issues, and secrets, because we've got the Moon in the 12th house of secrets and foreign things. So foreign secrets, and there's some kind, it looks, look at Moon and squaring Mars. This is abuse. This looks like, first, let's look at the news tomorrow. It's either going to be weather or it's going to be some kind of fight. It looks like a fight to me. And could be up north because Capricorn is north. Could be a bunch of old people. There's some kind of, retirement home and they've gone out of their minds, something like that. We'll have to see. Well, I hope to see you guys tonight. I am going to be on after Sweetie Pilo. I decided to wait until she's done, and then hopefully you guys can come on over. So yes, show tonight, 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central. Hope you guys can see it. Thanks again for being valedictorians and walking through this court. I'm going to call it a court chart because February 1st, this is going to be, get your popcorn. It's going to be a month, and I think a lot better for a lot of people. So if that's the case for you, congratulations. Yeah, she's great. I know. We don't know. I hope not, because I like old people. So, all right. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks again for joining me.